Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm music journalist Thomas Mooney, and you're listening to New Slang. We are closing out the week being joined by country singer-songwriter Elijah Ocean. Elijah just released his latest album, Born Blue, today. That'd be Friday, August 13th. This record is really informed by Elijah's love for neo-traditional stuff from the 80s and 90s country songwriting world. You get these pockets of throwback sonic punches that pick up on some of that Bakersfield sound meets LA country, meets Las Vegas dim lights and thick smoke, meets that haziness of the Texas dance hall days. At other times, he's nodding at the likes of Clint Black or like early George Strait, or that plain-spoken honky-tonk summer that Alan Jackson really shaped in the early 90s. I would point to The Ice Machine as just an instant classic that feels like a lost Clint Black song, or Losing My Memory that has a touch of that western swing sway that George Strait did time to time. Honky Tonko, you get a little bit of that brushing of Dwight Yoakam on there. What I like is how you still get a lot of these interesting takes, these interesting angles on these songs, but you're still provided those familiar and classic touchstones. Anyway, Born Blue, it's a really, really great record by Elijah Ocean, out Friday, August the 13th. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Soto. If you've been listening to New Slang for really any amount of time, you'll know that Desert Door is one of my all-time favorite premium, high-quality spirits. If you haven't or aren't sure what exactly a Soto is, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's going to up the game on your liquor cabinet. For starters, the best reference point that I can point you to is to think about a tequila or a mezcal. Do you feel that Western desert, that Texas ruggedness? Okay, Soto is like that, but a little bit more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It intrigues the palate and offers these hints of vanilla and citrus. There's an earthiness that often sends me right back to my Trans-Pecos and far west Texas roots. There's plenty to love about Desert Door. For me, it all starts right there. A close second is just how versatile Desert Door really is. You can go full highbrow and experiment with concocting a variety of cocktails that call for muddling fresh fruit, sprigs of thyme, sticks of cinnamon. It's perfect for that world. If you're a little bit more down home, if you've just rolled up the sleeves of your denim Wrangler button-up, it's perfect for that as well. If you're just desiring something that's short and sweet, it hits the mark every time. Desert Door is genuine and authentically West Texan. It's inherently West Texan. They harvest Soto plants out in the wild and are knowledgeable conservationists at heart. That's obviously something incredibly important to me. They shine a light on what makes West Texas special and unique and worth preserving and keeping it safe from exploitation. Right now, you can find Desert Door all over Texas, Colorado, Tennessee, and there's budding numbers in places like New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Georgia. Best thing you can do is to check out desertdoor.com to find where Desert Door is locally. Again, that's desertdoor.com. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We're everywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you're over on iTunes, I highly encourage you to leave one of those 5-star reviews. If you're over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so on, go give us a follow over there as well. If you're interested in some New Slang merchandise, hit up the merch store. That would be over at newslangpodcast.bigcartel.com. We have t-shirts, koozies, magnets, coffee mugs, and a bunch more over there. And also a new announcement. So back in late March, I mentioned that I would be releasing a book this year. Well, it is about that time. Right now, you can pre-order The Lubbock Way, a collection of wallflower vignettes. And as the title alludes, it's a series of short stories, encounters, and thoughts about the Lubbock music scene. It focuses on the years 2015 to around 2017. It's a pretty quick read. It's a fairly short book. It's just north of 100 pages. I, of course, will throw a direct link into the show notes for this as well. I'm just going to be doing a small self-release of The Lubbock Way. It'll only be about 500 copies, And I really only see it growing to a larger number if the pre-order numbers are just through the roof and ridiculous. I don't really foresee that being the case though, but hell, I don't know. 500 copies is only about 5% of my Twitter followers, so who knows? That just sounds like the very bare minimum. But, if 5% of people who follow me on there actually order a book. At any rate, though, The Lubbock Way will be out by September. You can pre-order yourself a copy today. I'll, of course, have more information on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. Again, all the links that I just mentioned, they will be in the show notes. All right, let's get on into the interview. Here is Elijah Ocean. Yeah, well, I guess obviously the most natural spot to start off is you have this new record coming out in just 2 weeks, Born Blue, August 13th. As far as I understand, like the roots of this record go a little bit further back over the past couple years, but where's I guess like where do you feel like the initial I guess stages of this record really, where do you feel like it really started taking shape, and where you kind of knew the direction and the musical styling, and where you felt like this is a record and this is like what I want it to be? Do you remember like where those initial beginning stages came from?
Yeah, well, I started writing songs in this style, I'd say, as far back as like 2013 or 2014, I want to say, because before that I was writing kind of music in a different style. It was like a little more like folky, I guess, and like more about like my feelings and stuff like that. And I made a few records like of that nature. And then I kind of just started writing in a bit of a different voice or something. It was kind of gradual, but one of the like records that really like inspired me in that way was this Bobby Bear record from 1977, Me and McDill, which I got from my dad's record collection. And like I kind of like rediscovered that record around that time, and it's Bobby Bear doing all Bob McDill songs, and it's just like, to me, it's just like this perfect record. And it's like it's got these like kind of like tongue-in-cheek sort of songs and funny bits, and it's like just like pure country songwriter, and I kind of got like obsessed with that record, and I still am, really. I play it for everyone. But yeah, I remember I was like in Austin for South by Southwest. I think it was 2014, and I was at my Airbnb, and I wrote this song, Writing on the Wall, which is on this record. And I knew that like it's kind of like this Tejano feel, and like it's like kind of a funny story, and that was like the first song that felt like it was like in this kind of new voice or style to me. And like I started playing that song in like every single show, and it kind of like evolved over time, and like I tried recording it a bunch of times, but it never felt like it worked. So that was like the first song that kind of like got the ball rolling for me, I think. So that was a long time ago, but so anyway, yeah, I continued to like write songs in that style, kind of like exploring different aspects of it. And at the same time, I moved to California and started like basically doing all these like dance hall gigs, where I was playing bass for all these different bands out there, for like line dancers and dancers and stuff. And so I ended up having to learn like 1,000 classic country songs and like over the years, and like a lot of those are like George Strait and Alan Jackson and Dwight Yoakam, like Clint Black and stuff like that, like all this like neo-traditional stuff. And I like got super into it. and kind of got obsessed with it, sort of. Like I don't really like listen to anything else very often anymore, which is kind of crazy. Like my whole record collection is just like 80s George Strait, basically, and like stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's I knew that you had that transition, that the evolution as far as being a little bit more folky in a lot of ways, and evolving into this moment. But I think like what your sound is such an interesting palette, because you definitely have like those moments where you're like, oh, this sounds very 90s country. This sounds very neo traditional. But, you know, as you mentioned that Bobby Bear record and McDill songs, like that era of country, very much like that Tom T. Hall brand of country, that era, very much is like this real playful aspect of country music that sometimes I feel like we often can take country music way too serious, and
Uh-huh.
like there's a lot of stuff that they wrote about in a that was serious but like in a playful manner, and so I think like you have like you have those moments on here as well, and again, like I think this is like this really interesting mix, because in a lot of ways I think it when people say they're neo traditional inspired, they feel like whenever I guess like you would kind of think of it being like right on the head, like hitting it right on the the nail, as far as like just being spot on, trying to do that thing, trying to, and it feels like you are like, again, like you can hear those sensibilities in there, and you can feel the times where you lean further into it, but it's almost like a different approach to that inspiration, and I find that really interesting as far as like you know your approach to the 90s country sound, the neo-traditionalist.
Yeah, because like I don't know, I've got my own style of singing. I don't sound like Keith Whitley or like George Strait. I mean, I've got my own voice, and like
Mm-hmm.
I am influenced by a lot of other stuff for sure over the years. Like, I mean, I grew up listening to like Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead, and like Bob Dylan was a huge influence on me. Um, and a lot of like older country music too, like the outlaw stuff, and like Ernest Tubb and Lefty Frizzell and all this. I wasn't I never was trying to like replicate something that's already happened. Like I'm trying to like combine a bunch of stuff that I like, with to make something new, basically. Um, with my own voice.
Yeah, some of that tongue-in-cheek aspect, even just like in some of the song titles, like the Ice Machine or Chip Off the Barroom Floor, you kind of feel like, oh, this is there's that fine line, that balance of kind of being tongue in cheek and humorous, and then also like, do you go too far and like just become like cheeseball country kind of stuff? Where do you how do you I guess navigate that line and understand like when maybe something's like you just gotta like toe that line versus going too far in this like, not, I don't want, I'm trying to think of like, I don't want to like throw any country artists under the bus, but like that watermelon crawl kind of thing, or you know what I'm saying? Like you don't want
Yeah,
to go like too far, even though like that song still has a special place in my heart. No offense,
always.
Tracy Bird. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, no, like I don't know, it's just a taste thing, I guess. Like I don't know, you can't take yourself too seriously. And life is like full of like real shit. It's like there's challenges, and there's like death, and like alcoholism, and like all these like dark things, that happen to everybody, and like it's to me it's like it's fun to just like make light of those things in some way, like point out like what's funny about it, or like not take it too seriously, because I mean that's what that's what country music is all about. To me, it's like commiserating on your on the trials of life, and like being like, yeah, we're all in this, you know, it's gonna be okay. Like, make fun of yourself, it's fine.
Yeah, everyone's had that series of days throughout their life where it's the the proverbial worst day of your life, and yet like there's something that will like just happen that makes it worse but also funny at the same time, and you're like, this fucking like, if I don't know, it's often whenever I have like one of these bad days, I think, if I just woke up 5 minutes earlier, would all of this have not fucking happened? And
Yeah.
it's like the icing on the cake, you know, all of this bad stuff happened, but then also like your dog ran away. Uh, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's only like when you look back when you can find like the humor in it. But yeah, I again, like as you said right there, like country music has always, a lot of the great stuff has always had like that self-deprecation, that little bit of that humor, that humorous tone to it all. This episode is in part brought to you by Charlie Stout Photography. Charlie Stout has long been a great buddy of mine, and for as long as I've known him, he's always had a good eye for ideas, for lines in a song, and notably, an eye for what makes a great photograph. Yes, we're going to roll with that tried and true cliche about a great photographer having a good eye. But it's cliche for a reason. More often than not, it means it's true. Right now, I want y'all to head on over to charliestout.com to get an idea of what I'm talking about. While you're at it, go give him a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Charlie Stout. Right now, he has about 50 photographs for sale on charliestout.com, with a vast majority of those being landscapes and sky shots of West Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The American Southwest, if you will. A lot of cacti and clouds, windmills and open roads, sunsets and stardust. He captures a lot of what I love about West Texas and these dry, arid climates. That's mainly that vast emptiness that can really make you feel small, the depth and the weight and the intensity, it's all in there. Right now, he's doing a special on his prints. Each week, he releases a new photo, and for 1 week only, that photograph is at a special introductory rate. For just $25, you'll get an 8.5 by 11. That's just about half off the regular price. For $75, you can get a 13 by 19, and for $110, you can get a 17 by 22. After the week, they go back to regular prices, which are still an absolute steal if you ask me. Also, just a pro tip, keep a watchful eye out on his Twitter. He's consistently posting one-offs, errors, and randoms on there that are for sale, that are in the flash sale variety. Again, that is at Charlie Stout for Twitter and Instagram. Head on over to charliestout.com, grab a signed print, buy a record, get yourself some nature sounds and some nature shots. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Like the Roger Miller of the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like, it's supposed to be good time music, you know, but like there needs to be like a rub in there somewhere, you know, like it can't just be like it's all about having a good time all the time, you know. But it can. I like that juxtaposition of like singing about something that's like, that sucks. You know, in like a funny way. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I just like that.
Well, that's okay. So that's something that I've noticed when I was looking back through stuff. Like 35, the origins of that song, as you mentioned, is, stem from a time in Las Vegas. And there's a few other songs that I've noticed that like you've either started in Vegas or like wrapped up in Vegas. And I'm only thinking of like 3 of them, but I'm sure like there's probably more in there somewhere in the catalog. What is it about like that Las Vegas that makes you kind of go, oh, I gotta, kick off another song or finish something out or whatever the case is?
Yeah, it's so I would used to like work at this um, out there playing music at Gillies in Treasure Island Casino. It's just like a giant, basically like Disneyland version of a country bar. You know, they've got like a mechanical bull and like the whole thing. Um, so we would go out there from LA and like stay there for 3 or 4 nights, like pretty regularly. Um, and it's like super depressing in Las Vegas. It's just like, I don't know. It's just gross and like sucks. And like, I have a lot of time to kill during the day and like would usually stay up too late and just like waste a bunch of money and time, you know, and I definitely have some fun, obviously, but like, you know, I would always have my own hotel room for the whole time, and like, I would end up just like writing songs during the day, pretty much, up in the hotel. I don't know why. It just like I had nothing else to do, really. Um, but yeah, like, there's that song from my last record, "Cleaned Up in Vegas," and 35 from this one. I wrote both those songs in the same day. Um, there, and it was after just like a super long late night, you know, or just got drunk and like lost a bunch of money and woke up like really hungover and mad at myself. And like, I remember I walked outside. I had just like, I don't have a mustache now, but I had just like shaved my face into a mustache the night before. And I was just like, it didn't feel like me or something. I was just like looking at myself like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? I just like remember I walked outside and just like walked down the strip and like was trying to find some brunch. And I ended up like writing these songs in my head. Like I just felt like I was just coming up with lines in my head as I was walking, you know, and just being like, just like playing with words basically in my head. And I went and got eggs and um, bought a tank top. And then I got back to the hotel and just like busted out both the songs, you know, um, for some reason. And they're actually like kind of similar in chord progression. They're almost like the same. Um,
Yeah,
chord wise.
kind of like song cousins in a way.
They are, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's so interesting. You know, you talking about Vegas as far as it being depressing because you know, like it's this weird. Like Vegas is probably like the worst. I guess like the best representation of like the worst indulgences of being an American.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, I'm not stating anything new there, but what I find really something that you had mentioned there, as far as like, you know, you kind of just being holed up in your motel room, is that I kind of feel like that probably just because of how hot it is out there, you know, the climate, like it drives people inside, of course. And so that means like you're in these like either these lonely rooms or you're like, you know, surrounded by a bunch of people playing the same game and just kind of like, you know, in another way, in a very very lonely setting. Whereas like, you know, L.A. or like Austin or any of these like, you know, more temperate climates, you're kind of driven out to go do things. So it's an
Uh-huh.
interesting what thing as far as like Vegas maybe being a good setting to write a record, even though you may not feel the greatest while there.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, there's that like old strip that's like still kind of cool down there, and like
Mm-hmm.
um there's something about like these like new developments of these like historical kind of like party spots or something that like I equate it like what's going like Vegas to like Times Square or like the Sunset Strip or um like Broadway in Nashville, where I've been spending like way too much time. It's like I mentioned before, it's like a Disneyland version of like what it used to be, and it's just like it used to be like dirty and like raw, and like now it's like there's an Apple store, and like it's all just like it's all like just like an echo of this, like once it was really cool, and for some reason that just like, I just don't like it for some reason. It's like sad.
Yeah. Well, just like the gentrification of these places, even though like a lot of the places you're talking about aren't necessarily like, low income neighborhoods or something like that. You're taking these places that I guess like there's the shady elements out of it, right? The things that like made some of these places cool. The Not necessarily the danger, because there's plenty of danger everywhere, but like again, like maybe like the shady elements out of these places. And when you do that, when you strip those away, it just becomes, corporate box,
Corporate box. Yeah.
The as you said, the Apple stores everywhere, or like, just chain restaurants. I mean, like here in Lubbock, like we just have so much development, but it's all like the same 10 to 15 restaurants set in a different part of town now. And so like I feel like that's obviously something that's happening everywhere, but like again, it's such in a way it's like very, very sleazy, even though it's a sterile environment.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a tourist attraction, basically. And like, yeah, it's just a bunch of homogenization. And like you said about danger, like, yes, there's danger everywhere, but like, it's like, it's too safe or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think like the Disneylandification, if you will, is kind of like the best way to describe it. I don't know if you've been here in Amarillo before, but we have, or they up there have the Big Texan, which is like this place you can get the big giant steak. I don't know how big it is.
Yes.
But if if you eat it all, only been there once, and I swear, like walking in, it felt like, and they they pull out all the bells and whistles as far as it being a Western country and Western spot, but it feels like you walk into, like what I've compared it to is like walking into Raising Arizona and not realizing you're a part of a movie, because like it just feels fucking weird. And it's like, this is not like I know you guys are trying to do this like Texas thing, you're trying to do like the frontier, but there's something off about all of this. And like, like that's the feeling I get in some of these places.
I've never been in there. I've seen that sign before. It's tempting because you get the food for free, right? If you eat it all.
Yeah, if you eat the big giant steak, it's like 72 ounces, and like you got to eat like the steak and the salad and like the baked potato and all this other. I think like the shrimp cocktail that comes with it. And
oh man,
it's so weird because it's like all these like professional eaters, and then like a fucking 12-year-old kid who just has like the metabolism of a 12-year-old kid, and just like eating it in like 20 minutes, that kind of thing.
Wow,
there is
crazy.
a time limit, but it's like, again, the best description of like the worst aspects of being an American, so. But I digress. I wanted to ask some of the stuff about like the neo-traditional stuff. You mentioned how you're such a fan of that era, that period. Once you started diving in, I feel like you realize that there's all these little regionalism aspects of neo-traditional. You got like the Bakersfield sound still. You have like more of this slick George Strait Texas thing. You have kind of like that Houston pocket, and then of course as you further get into the 90s, you have like these different girl groups or bands still during the time. If you want to go like up to the Kentucky, you have like you mentioned Keith Whitley and Patty Loveless and more of that sound with Judds. What is like as far as those little pockets go, like, do you find that you gravitate towards one of those little regions a little bit more than the other? Do you have like a favorite little aspect of the neo-traditional?
That's interesting. I mean, all the names you just mentioned are like, I'm huge fans of all those artists. I guess like Keith Whitley kind of became my favorite, really. Just like, I don't know, his voice is just like the greatest. And I love how he kind of like just continued that lineage of, like it's basically like Jimmy Rogers, Lefty Frizzell, Merle Haggard, Keith Whitley. It's like this like stylized vocal inflection. Like not everybody does that. Like he's like Keith Whitley sounds a lot different than George Strait and Alan Jackson and stuff. So yeah, I guess like I don't know if I gravitate specifically to a region. Like I love Clint Black so much.
Yeah.
So like the Texas thing is huge, and I got really into Dwight Yoakam too. Like the Bakersfield thing is awesome, and it's more like I really like it. I really like guys who like write most of their songs. Like I love George Strait, and I think he's got impeccable taste, and he's amazing. I appreciate all his records, but like that's what I like about Alan Jackson and Clint Black. Like they just like they write their songs, and like it's their voice. I love that so much.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has long been the heart and soul of the Lubbock singer-songwriter scene and has been a home away from home for some of Texas, Americana, country, and rock and roll's finest over the years. Talk with 99.9% of the songwriters who have come out of Lubbock and the Panhandle at large over the past 20 years, and they'll point to just how integral and necessary the Blue Light is. With live music and touring slowly but surely coming back, spots like the Blue Light are getting back to their usual ways as well. That means music every night of the week. Do you want to see that schedule? Well, I've got a few options for you. 1, go to their socials and give them a follow. That is at Blue Light Live on Twitter, at The Blue Light Live on Instagram, and of course by just searching The Blue Light Live on Facebook. They're consistently posting that week's lineup of shows, as well as those heavy hitters that ought to be on your calendar that are coming up on the horizon. 2, check out BlueLightLubbock.com as well. There they have the full schedule, the cover charges, time, any of those specials that may be happening. While there, go check out their merch page. They have a wide range of hats, koozies, hoodies, sweaters, beanies, jackets, and so much more. You can, of course, get all of your merch needs when you go see your favorite band take the stage at Blue Light. Just ask the bartender and they will get you all set. Speaking of which, that's another great way of seeing who's playing there. Just go to the Blue Light. It's at 1806 Buddy Holly Avenue here in Lubbock, Texas. And of course, again, that is BlueLightLubbock.com. I'll throw a link into the show notes too. Maybe I'll see you there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Clint is probably like, as far as like, if I just had to, pick that one record out, I think like Killin' Time is still like my favorite record of the era, because I just think it's like there's not one bad song on it. And again, like he just, there's something about his voice as far as that writing perspective that just, he captures a certain, I don't know, just mood and feel of that wallflower out on, going to these dance halls and these bar rooms. And that, like, there's like that lonesomeness in it, right? There's that, the way his guitar player, like, has this very specific sound to his guitar where you just know, like, that and that pedal steel mix is Clint Black no matter what. Like it's very identifiable. And again, like as you said, like he as far as that voice as being a writer, he wrote like almost every damn song he cut. And it's only been in
Yeah.
like recent years where there's been a couple of songs that are someone else's songs or whatever the case. But yeah, Killing Time to me is just kind of like that perfect record, and probably maybe like that watershed moment of the 80s transitioning into the 90s.
I would like 100% agree with you on that record. Like that's definitely one of my favorite records ever. Like I listen to that record all the time, and like it's like perfect, Yeah, every single song is perfect, and like he was like in his mid to late 20s, I think, when that album got released in '89. I don't know how he made that happen. Like it's just like he just like hit the nail on the head. And yeah, that year, 1989, to me, I mean, they have like the whole like class of '89 thing, right? But like that year to me is just like, yeah, almost like the peak of that sound. I think, right before the '90s.
Yeah,
Alan Jackson was about to come out. But like, yeah, like Randy Travis and George Strait kind of like set the stage for all that stuff, And,
yeah. Well, that's what's so interesting about we call it the 90s country, but if you really pinpoint the moment like that, I think most people think of 90s country, it's actually like 86 to not 89, where a
yeah,
lot of the the bones of what the sound was going to be are laid. Because I think like that Storms of Life record by Randy Travis is 86. So
yeah,
like, and of course like with George or anyone, Garth is 89. That debut record
which is
is
awesome.
yeah.
The
And
record's great.
I think like people give Garth so much shit, and it's like, dude, if you're just listening to like the massive hits, and even the massive hits, like there's gonna be these little moments where you like kind of roll your eyes, but for the most part, go look at those deep cuts. Go look at like the songs that weren't released as singles, and there's some great storytelling there, and there's some great they just fit the record, whatever that record is,
Oh yeah, I love Garth Brooks. In that first self-titled record, '89, is like awesome. I listen to that all the time. And then yeah, like I have his 2-disc greatest hits, and I think like yeah, as it gets to be later on, like I don't love it as much, but the songs like Baton Rouge and even like Friends in Low Places, like I think that's an amazing song. I think it's a great country song. Like um Mark Chestnut cut that song in 1990 too, and like that record Too Cold at Home is awesome. I kind of prefer Mark Chestnut's version of that song because it's like, I don't know, just a little more subdued or something, but I think it's a very well written song.
Yeah, I think like what it is that Garth was blowing up so quickly, and so like he I guess had like also the vision, the foresight to understand that country music, in my opinion, country music works well in like smaller rooms. It works well in like there's a cap on what it as far as like a great country show can be, and it can't necessarily be a stadium show unless you start adding different elements of it being like a rock and roll show. And of course, like if you're selling out a stadium, you have to add those elements. And I don't know. I don't fault anyone for doing that because the paycheck has to be telling you one thing, but you have to add some of that 80s rock element, the arena rock, to make people feel like they're the worst seat in the house is still like a good seat. So I get that. I think like the going back to Mark Chestnut and the Clint Black thing though, that it's that Houston Beaumont thing where that East Texas sound, as far as like just all those guys just could sing really, really well. And you can obviously pinpoint back to anyone from East Texas as far as George Jones or any of these guys like that. But Clint Black, the Mark Chestnuts, Clay Walker, Tracy Bird, all those guys just had a very, I don't know, like there's a very specific sound to that area.
Yeah, for sure. Is Tim McGraw from there too? I'm not. I can't remember where he's from.
I'm not really sure where Tim's from. I don't think he's a Texan, but he's.
Oh, okay.
Early Tim McGraw though. People, I don't know. I appreciate Tim McGraw just even now because I still think there's plenty of stuff you kind of go, oh God, why did you cut this? But then he'll end up cutting like Lori McKenna, Humble and Kind, and you're like, well, why can't you do that all the time?
I know.
Why isn't that the standard?
Yeah, I'm not sure why it should be like. Yeah, there's like a taste thing. I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with like the labels or something like that. But yeah, I think like I still hear some good songs every once in a while, but most of the stuff I try to keep up with, what's coming out of Nashville nowadays. But it kind of misses the mark for me a lot of the time.
Yeah, I still think that what I'm fascinated by is just why certain things sell. Why do certain people feel like they gravitate towards what I would consider, bad music, or like, maybe not full on horrible music, or like, you're doing a disservice to music, but music that like, isn't necessarily necessary. Where you could listen to these other great things, and like maybe you are looking for a certain kind of drinking song, or even just on that very top surface, superficial level of listening. Well, there's 1,000 better drinking songs. But like I'm still so fascinated by what draws people to certain sounds and certain writers.
I'm not sure. Like, I mean, are you talking about like from the artist perspective or from like as a fan? Like
the fan perspective.
Yeah, right. Because I don't know. I look back at like the progression of country music, in the last 30 years or whatever, and like I mean, I just kind of just see it going downhill pretty much the whole time. And I mean, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with like Las Vegas or like the Sunset Strip. Like it just gets like there's more corporate elements or something, or like it just gets homogenized, and it just like the level of taste to me personally just like slowly like just takes a nosedive.
Yeah,
basically. And like over the years, like people still listen to country radio. Like so many people like just listen to that, and like I think like it just progresses over the years, and people get used to hearing the same thing over and over again, so they like it, because it's familiar, and then it just slowly becomes this like thing that's like so far from like what country music really is to me. I don't really know. Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, I think like, one of the things I've always gone back to is that, people like us, if you're obsessed with music, you find time to find the next thing that you like. Who aren't necessarily getting the same, press push, the same record push as these major stars. You have the time investment, and like, most of the population is doing the carpool and like taking the kids to work and like working, 50 hours a week and all that shit just to, go home and just kind of, watch the top layer of culture stuff. And they don't necessarily have time to go and find all the good stuff. Or maybe they don't have like that one friend or that one connection to who's telling them like, oh, go get that whatever record, insert this person. But as far as the homogenized sound, I think there's very much something to that because, country music in the 90s blew up in a way that like people don't necessarily understand. Like I think we all kind of think of like country music as being this big forever. And before, you didn't have as many crossover hits. And Garth and Shania and like the Dixie Chicks and like people like that, even though I think what they were doing was better than what's going on now, they made it very, very popular where all of a sudden to get those crossover hits, you're kind of just, again, you're blending all these general sounds. And it's not just like country music that's happening to like hip hop, and it's happening to rock and roll. And, I wouldn't necessarily say pop because like obviously pop is pop, but you're all kind of like blending these together just so we have like this one general top 40 list versus, these different, country and hip hop and, more again, going back to the regionalism thing, like there's less of that. We just have like the generic Southern voice for country music, but
Right.
I don't know. I digress.
Yeah. I feel like back in the day, like people's voices were like much more distinct. Like when you hear Willie Nelson, like, it's Willie Nelson. Like, and yeah, I feel like that's kind of like changed too. Like I feel like a lot of people like sing the same way now, or like maybe the labels are just like looking for like a specific thing that they know will sell or something like that, as opposed to like, a new voice.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it kind of blows my mind that like I was talking to my roommate. We were in the van the other day, and like we were like, I had my phone right there, and I was like, man, you realize we can listen to any song in the world right now. We can choose to like find any song and listen to it, but we're listening to country radio right now. Like and he was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And for some reason, like it kind of boggles my mind that country radio still exists, but like I still listen to it. Like, even though like, I could pull up any song from history, but like there's something about just getting in the car and just like hitting that one button. And there it is.
Well, that's I always have this problem with, my specific thing is like turning on Netflix or Hulu, and like it's very, very similar. You don't have like every show clearly, but just being over stimulated with the possibility of watching literally every show ever, right? And then you kind of go, well, fuck it, I'm gonna put on whatever my favorite show is, or I'll turn off the TV, and it's like, I think that happens with people with music, as you're kind of saying right there. Like you can be overwhelmed by the possibilities, and so sometimes there's that comfort in just letting someone else program what's happening, even if like you don't agree with some of the programming.
Right. Yeah. Like a lot of time I'll just like be browsing for like 30 minutes online to like find something to watch, I'm like,
right.
Whereas if I just had regular cable, I might just flip through the channels, I guess, but I don't know. It's like when the possibilities are limited, it's like easier to find something, I guess. That's why I like buying records. Like I like my record collection, or I have CDs too, but like, because I know I've listened to them all, and like, it's like a limited selection, and it's easier to like find something to listen to because there's less choices.
Yeah. I always have a problem when it comes to the Netflix thing. Just adding things to the list to watch versus like actually tackling the list, like actually like ever going back to the list and going, okay, I said I needed to watch this, or I was told by, so-and-so or a friend or whatever. Twitter has been telling me I need to watch this show because, it's trending or whatever the case. And then just like never going back and actually fucking watching it.
Yep. Yeah, it's endless. There's so much to watch.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. I think like there's something very similar for music though too, because you know you're told about 1,000 records all the time. Like, oh, you need to check out this artist, and they kind of go into a list or a pile. And now, granted, like it's different for me because like I'm clearly listening to a bunch of music, like, or I'm at least I'm hoping that people think I do that because I do. I mean, but
Yeah.
I promise, like if you're sending me music, PR people, I'm listening to it. But again, like you can't write over everything. But I digress. Like I'm rambling on here, but it's the same kind of situation, the same similar aspect. But I want to go back to what you had mentioned as far as voices go, having distinct voices. It's the Keith Whitley thing, right? You mentioned as far as Keith Whitley having a very identifiable voice, something that he was doing was like he evoked a lot of emotion in the way he sang, where sometimes artists don't necessarily do that exact same thing. But back in like the '90s, if we're wanting to pinpoint other voices, you know, like who else sounded like Reba McEntire? You know,
Right.
she still does have a very distinct talking voice, an accent, if you will, and people like just I don't know if it's one of those things we we're uncomfortable with all these little, or if it's too much of a gamble or whatever. But what's also weird is when people play up the southern accent when they don't necessarily have one.
Yeah, you hear that quite a bit for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I can't really ever tell artists apart that well anymore. I mean, there's some for sure. I'm just talking about like radio. But yeah, Reba. It's Reba.
Yeah. Ronnie Dunn of like Brooks and Dunn.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
You know exactly who that is once you start singing. I want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer up a quick Thomas Mooney's cocktail minute. As I've said probably 100 times by now, by no means am I a seasoned mixologist or bartender, but these have been some of my Desert Door go-tos. For starters, let's just go with the tried and true ranch water. Pop the top off the Topo Chico, take a good swig, now pour in some Desert Door, and top it off by throwing in a few lime wedges. Never fails. This one, it's so simple it probably doesn't even count, but again, pretty foolproof. Do the exact same thing, but get you a Mexican Coca-Cola. I guess you can go with a regular one, but you're really cutting yourself short if you don't opt for the Mexican import variety. All right, here's the change-up you've been waiting for. Desert Door Sangria. This one is prime for when you have company coming over and you aren't wanting to just be over there making 6 different drinks at a time. What you'll need is some Desert Door, obviously, a bottle of red wine, honey, boiling water, apple cider vinegar, some cinnamon sticks, a couple of apples, and some thyme sprigs. I know, that may sound intimidating, but trust me, it's worth the prep, and honestly, it's pretty easy. For starters, get you a punch bowl, add that honey, those cinnamon sticks, and the boiling water together. Now you're going to want to stir that all up and let it cool down for about an hour or so. Remember, patience is a virtue. Once that's done, add some Desert Door and stir vigorously. Now add the wine, the cider, and the vinegar, and continue stirring until it's equally mixed. Now slice those apples up and toss them in. Put in those thyme sprigs as well. Now you can pour that over some ice and you have a mighty fine sangria. Chef's kiss. Anyway, those have been some of my favorite go-tos as of late. And remember, Desert Door is as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, complex, and intriguing than tequila. It's rich in balance, and whether you decide to keep it simple or want to experiment, Desert Door is that perfect Texas spirit. There's plenty more recipes over at desertdoor.com as well. Check out the show notes for a link. All right, let's get back to the episode. You specifically, you've lived in a lot of different places. You grew up in Maine, lived out in California. These even though you didn't necessarily live in Las Vegas, I kind of feel like that's a part of there. Now you mentioned like you're over in Nashville.
Mhm.
What took you to move to Nashville, and then two, like, what's it been like living in Nashville, during a pandemic?
So basically, I got here just in March, so I've been here 4 months or 5 months or something, and I was in LA for 6 years, and it was great. I was very busy and made a lot of music and did a lot of touring and whatnot. But yeah, the year I spent there during the pandemic was pretty hard. I wasn't able to gig at all, and I really like focused a lot on my record, like finishing my record and like recording music and writing some more songs and stuff. But it was pretty depressing, to be honest, like it was for a lot of people. And yeah, just basically just got to the point I had to just get out of California. And I've spent a lot of time in Nashville previously, and have a lot of like lifelong friends here. And
Mm-hmm.
it just seemed like I didn't really know where else to go, to be honest. Like it was I could either come here or like go back up to Maine, live with my parents or something like that. I didn't really know what else to do, so I just packed up the van and just drove here and like got a house. And um, it was kind of a tough transition for sure for a couple months. Like I didn't really have any work and like I didn't really know what I was doing. Um, but pretty quickly, like I started just being more social, and like I basically, like, since I got here, like things have been open. Um, and got vaccinated and was just able to kind of like go out and be social again, and that was nice. But I started getting gigs pretty quick, and I've been working downtown at Alan Jackson's bar, AJ's Good Time Bar, like 4 shifts a week, basically, just like
Mm-hmm.
playing country gold for the tourists and stuff down there, and that's been pretty awesome. It's like it's fun to like meet people and like you know figure out what works for the crowd and what doesn't. So I've been busy with that and the record and writing songs. I've been like writing. I have another record I've written basically that I'm looking to record, and I've been writing some songs with other people, some artists and songwriters and stuff like that too. So I've been very busy since I got here.
Yeah. Well, how Abe, like how has it been as far as you kind of go like a year without playing in front of crowds? Obviously, you're not playing like, and I think like maybe the thing that we kind of forget about is clearly you're picking up a guitar and playing and singing some songs, but you're not like performing 90-minute sets or like whatever the time is. Is there like building up that endurance back, or is it very, very easy to just kind of fall back in line as far as, playing all night?
Yeah, I was definitely rusty for sure. Um, because yeah, I'm used to playing really long gigs, not all the time, but like a lot of gigs I do are for 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. Of and in LA, I was, sometimes I'd be singing for that long, and like you definitely like build up the stamina and the chops and stuff like that. It's like a muscle that you're
Mm-hmm.
working all the time, and it feels great, when you're in shape doing it. But yeah, a year of not doing that, I was like, I couldn't remember lyrics. Like, it definitely felt just like there's this like mental quickness that like you need to have and like to keep focused for that long and like remember everything you're doing and whatnot. So it took me a little while to get back in the swing of things, but I definitely am now. I'm like playing more than I ever was now, which is cool.
Yeah, I kind of figured it was you know, the proverbial like riding a bike, but it's also one of those like now also ride that bike for 20 miles. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a still a challenge of getting back up to the playing. But you mentioned writing with other people. Has did you do a lot of co-writing before? And it has like I guess Nashville's kind of known for obviously being a music hub, clearly, but it also being kind of a co-writing town.
Mm-hmm.
What I guess how has that been as far as writing with other folks and again, like did you do a whole lot of that before back in California?
I wasn't doing that a lot before. Like there was like there's like a couple guys that I've like developed these co-writing relationships with that we felt very comfortable with each other, and like, but most of the things I've written is just like just by myself when I'm inspired to do it, and like I can take my time with it and make sure every line's just right. And like the co-writing thing is definitely a lot different, and I'm starting to get the hang of it though, like just kind of like you'll do like a block of 4 hours, and just sit and just throw lines back and forth. And it can be uncomfortable for sure. But to me, like once I realized like there's always another line you can use. Like if one guy doesn't like it, then you think of another one. Like I try not to like if there's something that I really, really like, but the other guy doesn't like it, like I'm not going to try to fight for it or like try to like prove to him that it's good. It's like you just come up with something else that you both like. And once you can get 2 yeses, then you just move on. But it's fun. Like sometimes it's smoother than others. But yeah, like I've written some cool songs. Like I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I've written some interesting stuff, with people that I wouldn't have written on my own.
Right. Yeah. That's always obviously the when you bring in someone else into any kind of creative process, they're going to have their imprints on it too. That's one of those things you just have to be okay with that being the situation because there's going to be those times where clearly I wouldn't have written this without this other person. I wouldn't have gone in this direction and opening new doors that you didn't necessarily know existed or that you wanted to exist.
Yeah. Also, like I've never really like put pressure on myself to write before. Like historically, I just like if I don't write a song for like a few months, like I don't like beat myself up about it or like be like, oh no, I have writer's block or something. I just never like it's okay. Like it's okay to not write for a little while and like it'll come back when it's time. And like I'm patient with myself in that way when I'm writing, like because it always does come back. And then I'll write like 10 songs in a few weeks, and like when I'm inspired to do it. And like if you're co-writing with somebody, it's like it's a scheduled thing, and like no matter how you're feeling, it's like you gotta like try to come up with something. So it's like it's interesting. It's more like like working a muscle than like pulling like a magical inspiration out of the air, at that point. So it's cool. It's like you're like flexing it as opposed to like, I don't know, being like a lightning rod.
Yeah, like that's also such a fascinating aspect of the creative process as far as like, I'm fascinated by both ways as far as the guy who wakes up every morning at 8 and starts writing a song, like there's those people out there who fucking do that. And then the other ones who, you have those extended periods of drought, and then all of a sudden, as you said, you got 10, 15 songs in just a couple of weeks. And it's fascinating how, like, neither of those is a wrong way of writing a song, clearly, but whatever works for what works for certain people, and finding what what works for you, clearly. It's, I don't know, in saying that, like, I kind of feel like you probably have picked up a little bit of, like, a different discipline, working a different muscle, as far as kind of getting a little bit more of that routine in there.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I feel like there's like people, there's so many different aspects of a song, like, that people like appreciate, and like, somebody might like a song just because of the lyrics, or just because of the way it makes them feel, or like even just like the guitar lick or something, like, it's like some songs will like make your head feel good, or like strike a chord in your mind. And then some are just like, just the way it makes you feel, like not even like what the lyrics are saying necessarily, maybe. So there's like, yeah, I feel like maybe like the when I'm like writing something scheduled, and like I'm like, okay, let's just like technically write a song, and maybe I'm using more of my brain. And like, sometimes if you're just like inspired to do something and it's coming from somewhere else, like, your heart or your soul or something like that. Like, I don't think one is better, but I like finding like maybe some kind of middle ground there. So you're like,
Right.
kind of hitting
Yeah.
both.
Well, like, one of the things is that makes both ways work, or that middle ground, wherever you fall in that spectrum, is never putting too much pressure on the idea of writing a song. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's, if you try and make it too big, like, if you start editing in the process, like, you start shutting off that valve, and then, like, you're back to, like, square one of, like, kind of being lost out in the woods, and not necessarily even having a song to do. So that's an interesting thing right there.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes I don't even like remember where, like, how I came up with something, like, it's weird. Like, I feel like I like black out sometimes when when I've written songs, like, looking back, I'm like, where did I even, like, I have no idea where, I don't even remember writing that song, It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a couple of, like, different co-writes happen over the years, and I'm always, like, fascinated and amazed by how, and I've seen, like, some co-writes where, like, they never even cut the song, kind of thing too, where, but they were so excited in the moment about that song, and it was like, the best song that they've ever written, kind of thing. And then, like, they don't even end up cutting it because, they find whatever fault in it later. But you kind of do see these, like, manic states of a songwriter when they're in the middle of it, and it's like, holy shit, this is a different person than I know, in a different aspect, in a different part of their life.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was at this like publishing house record label on Music Row last week, like writing a song with this artist. And like, yeah, I feel like it was almost like we were like very excited about what we were writing, and it was awesome. Like, it was very smooth, but yeah, I felt like it was almost like I was not really like thinking about what I was doing. I was just doing it, it was kind of like out of body or something. And like, we were both like, at the end of the day, we were both like, man, that's a hit, like, it's definitely a number one hit. And like, I don't even know who he's going to play that for, or where it's going to end up, or if it'll ever be recorded by anybody, or like, I have no idea. Like, who knows? But in the moment, we were both like, this is it, man. It's funny.
Yeah. It's this, like, a different kind of high that, like, where again, like if you've not been around songwriters when they're in the middle of doing that, like you would swear like this is a different person, you know. But like it's amazing, and I guess like that's always like the feeling of that euphoria that you are always kind of chasing, you know, in a lot of ways when you're creating something.
It does feel good. It really does.
Going back to this record, was this like did you, I'm assuming you had this like kind of cut before pandemic time. Or was some of this like, was some of Born Blue recorded, you know, I guess past March 2020?
Yes, some of it was. Actually, quite a bit of it. I mean, it was like a very long process making that album. I think I started doing pre-production for it in like 2018, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'd go into the studio with my band for like a day at a time whenever I had the money to do it. And like, we would like try to get work done on it. And we did like 6 or 7 of those sessions over the course of 6 months to a year. And then, yeah, basically when we had all the basic tracks done in the studio, I took it all home to my own studio, which is just like a, you know, bedroom thing. And I that was kind of like when the pandemic was about to hit. And so it was like, I was like upgrading my home studio and like spending a lot of time like learning about that stuff, like Pro Tools and gear and plugins and all that. And I had tried to do all the vocals in the studio previously to that, but I was never happy with my vocal takes. For some reason, like I just felt like I wasn't nailing it. So I ended up like getting all the gear and getting a mic, like a big, nice tube mic. And last summer, which was during the pandemic, I cut all the vocals by myself in my living room, like late at night. I would line up all these records of like the records we've been talking about, like Keith Whitley, like some Merle Haggard's records or whatever, like on the couch, you know. I just line them up and like light some candles and like drink some wine or some whiskey, whatever the vibe was. And I would, over the course of a couple of weeks, I just like got all the vocals done at home by myself. I would like get into the vibe, you know. So then like, yeah, I spent a lot of time on the tracks at home, like filling them out with extra guitars and redoing a bunch of stuff and like editing stuff and flying in tracks from other guys. And yeah, I basically completed it about a year ago. The tracking of it all. And then I sent it to this guy in Nashville, Julian King, who is he's like been working on country records here in town since the 80s, like engineering, producing, and mixing. And like he's worked on a lot of these records that we've been talking about as well. Like he's worked with George Strait and Clint Black and Tim McGraw, and you know, he has like a Grammy for Faith Hill and all this stuff like that. Like he's top notch engineer, producer, and like he ended up mixing it for me, which was great because he was like, so what kind of direction do you think I should go for the mix? And I was like, well, just do it, you know, just do what you do. I didn't have to like really give him any like notes or ideas of how I wanted it to sound, because he's been making those records. So he really like tied the whole thing together like 100%. He made it sound awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like those late night vocal takes. I feel like that has to like be part of the reason why a lot of this record, you kind of have that neon glow of like the 2 a.m. kind of feeling. A lot of those songs feel like they they're in that area of the night, that mood, that lonesomeness. So I feel like that was a good call.
Yeah, I think it worked out for sure. I was like very frustrated before that, like with myself, you know. I was just like, I know what I want it to sound like, and I think I was just like being like, I would like book the studio time, you know, ahead of time. Then you go in there, and then just like, oh, I don't even feel like doing this right now, and like I'm paying for it, and I just was never able to like relax and like get the feel I wanted. So yeah, like doing it on my own time, just by myself when there's nobody else like in the room who I'm like imagining are judging me, and like no pressure, you know, like if I don't get it tonight, cool, like I can do it again tomorrow. So yeah, I think I think I got all the vocals I wanted to, and like it worked out 100%. I learned a lot along the way too.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've all kind of done this past year is, you know, you mentioned kind of upgrading your home studio. I think a lot of people did a lot of like YouTube videos as far as like understanding and learning how to do things they didn't necessarily know how to do as far as the home studio goes, or, you know, live streaming, all that kind of stuff. So it's been an interesting year to say the least.
I felt like I was like retired or something, and I just needed like hobbies, you know, just like super obsessed with stuff, and like, yeah, like setting up guitars and soldering, and, you know, like just diving deep into stuff just to like do something.
Yeah, it's been, I think like that's something that a lot of artists have done, where it's almost like a lot of people didn't write records this year. Clearly, there's been a whole lot of that, but I think a lot of people have done. Last year was a lot of the, you know, figuring out other ways to make their craft better, but not necessarily by, you know, writing 8 notebooks worth of songs or something like that. So it's been interesting to see, you know, how those things will end up like influencing or making, you know, artists better or different.
Yeah, it's true. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, honing your craft in a different way because you can't do it the way you're used to doing it, or something. Yeah, like I ended up like producing albums and songs for other artists as well during that time, like quite a bit, you know, like you can just send people tracks online, and it was really fun. It's funny, like I haven't done any of that in the last 6 months, really. I've been working on some new demos and stuff, but I've just been like gigging and writing, basically. It totally flipped.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think the new record, Born Blue, I really dig it, and yeah, we'll have to do this sometime again in the future. Hopefully, you know, in person with a, you know, 6-pack of beer or something.
Dude, that sounds great. I would love that.
All right, thanks so much for listening today. Be sure to check out Born Blue by Elijah Ocean, out today, Friday, August 13th. Go check out our presenting partners over at Desert Door, The Blue Light Live, and Charlie Stout Photography. Remember, today is the first day you can pre-order The Lubbock Way, a collection of wallflower vignettes by yours truly. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week for more episodes.